poetry is one of these things that attracts people because there's a seriousness to it. It's like, it's the same, I think, with art generally, is that people, it's a way of expressing quite a serious side that people have. There's a side to them that's a bit more serious, you know, and it's great that you can do things like this. And I love it. I can relax and have a drink, but I know that there's another side to me. I can't remember who it was that said, like, they were talking about the difference between themselves and someone else. Said, really, the only difference between me and someone else is I write. Rain on St. Patrick's RC Cemetery. The graves are so close together, all white and grey. Hundreds of them crowned with a statue of Christ or Mary or an angel. Hundreds of granite angels in the rain. I had to take cover in the church entrance while the pale blue flowers on the graves were battered in the heavy downpour. So much faith in those graves in the rain. The graves with the angels from another time, a time when people believed and wrote on the headstone a prayer for the souls of the dead. There is so much faith and death and rain, and I thank God I was born a Catholic and found my way here alone, waiting for the rain to lighten and my soul as well. It is a Friday night in Leyton, northeast London, and we are here with wine, our sorrows, the candles, and our simple lives. There are different types of artistic people. Some people, just spontaneous geniuses. Other people, spontaneity. You might get the first bit, but then there's endless reworkings and things like that, which is something I think I've always had, but I'm trying to get away from a bit more, which comes with skill.
Do you think you can hone spontaneity?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think if you've honed your skills, when the time comes, you can get at what you want to faster and quicker and more final. People, they keep changing. I keep doing this and doing that, but I think a lot of the great people, they keep coming back to the same idea.
Right.
They don't change. You can sum up an emotion in one piece of art. That's wonderful. But you could get it, but you can't completely explore it in one piece of art. You can't explore, like, you know, love or envy or something, or sorrow, because these are endless kind of mysteries.
So you think, for example, a painter would need a period?
Oh,
so
yes.
Especially it's like Picasso's Rose period.
And you forget Picasso's periods like that, like his Rose period, or say, for example, his Blue period. There's 100 paintings. There's not like 6. There's loads. I often think that quantity is underrated. Everyone says quality but quantity. Why not quality and quantity? On that note, we'll read a bit more poetry, because it's important. So this is a poem simply called Limehouse. The abandoned shop fronts, the cracked facades and the empty windows in the warm scarlet evening makes my stomach dance with needles. Birds on the roofs of my heart and arrows flown across the weak veins of the sky. Saturdays fall like an anchor. The Chinese takeaway lights are on, and the delivery man is collecting another order to take to rooms of televisions and sofas and corpses. I walk through the railway arches and understand the need for rosaries. Leaves brush my hair in a dream of bright fountains. The churches of Venice are so far, and the white blush of twilight looking out past gondoliers to the faded luxury of the Lido. City of grey pigeons and aerials that pushes me down. The river is sobbing green tears. London, you are like Achilles except crueler, without an inch of mortal skin at your feet which trample bones. There you go.
I walk through the arches and understand the need for rosaries. So can you tell me more about that then?
There are these little railway arches just by Limehouse station, which interestingly, there's a very, very classic picture from 1984 of Nick Cave stood under one of those. Anyway, it's basically that dull kind of greyness of a Saturday and you're tired and it's the afternoon, and instead of like faded grandeur and that kind of decadent beauty, you've just got fadedness. One theme that I was very, very interested in, which is, to be honest, quite a classical poetic theme, but I think this is one of the reasons it is, was to describe especially the city environment at a certain time of the day, which was basically the end of the day, not night, kind of
Twilight.
the twilight, but yeah, basically kind of the twilight or the early twilight, the late afternoon, the city in that environment, which is, it's a very common poetic theme. There's nothing particularly original in it, but basically I thought I have to express, this is something that I feel I have to express. So I kept doing it again and again and again and again. And in one sense, I think I've done what I needed to do there. But I could still do more. I know I could still do more, but the burning need to do it is kind of relaxed a bit. Childhood would be another one. Death, particularly my own death. Things to do with spirituality and my religious upbringing is definitely one.
Mm-hmm.
And classically, lost love.
Mm-hmm.
Either love that was and is gone, or love that never was. Never truly was. Unrequited love.
That's a heavy one.
Yes, I think they're the main kind of themes. As well, actually, as the other theme, which would be madness. Madness and death. And Sundays. I have many poems about Sundays. Sunday afternoons is a particular time when, that's like the meeting of many of my themes come together. So I'll read here, this is a poem called Sundays. The Sunday boredom of the cities, waiting to work again. No more bars, no more laughter. Nothing but the grey 4 o'clock skies and the trembling of the wind. I have no doubt that the world will end on a Sunday afternoon. The books stay another day unread, the plants unwatered, the words unsaid. Somewhere she moves like a ghost through the upstairs rooms, with a white dress and dark eyes. It's like waiting for a war that will never happen. These days we live through nothing that makes you shiver with the weight of its gravity. No shells are falling at night over London. We live in peacetime, but it does not rain in my soul, or in these Sundays of quiet trumpets and quiet to death. Definitely as I've got older, I put less stress in my emotions. I see them for what they are, often as sometimes irrational. And so I try to think, well, you can use these, but don't be ruled by them. Leonard Cohen said, there you go, a classic archetypal poet of romance and all of this. And he says, I don't trust my inner feelings. Inner feelings come and go. That's one of the things I've noticed as well as getting older, which is quite interesting, which may be a reoccurring theme, is things that I used to romanticise, now I don't romanticise as much.
Can you give an example?
Even a situation like this, there's part of me just thinking, I could just go to bed. Do you know what I mean? It's like seeing that a bit more.
Don't let me stop you.
No, I don't have any intention to. But it's like the romance of the thing, it doesn't attract me as much as it did. Let's put it that way.
Do you think posterity becomes less attractive as you get older? Or, let me rephrase.
It's quite an interesting question. Anyway.
What do you think about the idea that people only ever create things to become immortal?
I can see that, but I don't. It doesn't.
Do you think it's a kind of subconscious thing?
Well, it might be, and there might be something in the fact that idea, for example, like that someone might feel like they understand you without ever meeting you, or, for example, with you actually being dead, that someone in some sense could encounter you a bit and get a sense of you. But how important that is, it might be important to some people, it's not particularly important to me. One creative driving force for many people, though this is more of a temperament, is that they need to do artistic things to try and give themselves more kind of sense of who they are, more foundation. It's more like
self-discovery.
Yes, exactly. But the more you're looking into yourself, the more you're never going to find yourself. you're going to find yourself when you lose self-awareness. It's in the act of losing self-awareness, or especially self-consciousness, which a moment in inspiration can do, because you're really trying to do something inspired, trying to write something or create something. In that moment, you lose your self-consciousness. That's true artistic inspiration. But then when you finish, maybe you fall out of it, or you finish the thing, and you drift back into your normal state, you then see something that's there, that's created. And actually, by this thing that's different from you, you actually find out more about who you are, because you were the person who created it. Mm-hmm. I think that if you're a truly, truly healthy person with an artistic temperament, your life is your life, and the art should just be the byproduct of a life. It should be like oysters who, they make pearls, whatever it is. I think that certain creative people, and I would include yourself in this, because this is why I think that I'm similar to you. I think we're different in many ways, but I think we've got a similarity here, that we both probably have a sense of ourselves that we don't feel completely whole. We're more like a kind of, not fixed, or more like fragmented. Like you talk about the glass wall or something like that. We're more like, I can see someone else, even if I see you, I can see you as whole, and I think of you, and I think of the way you act, and I can see you as a person that's fixed together. But it's hard to think of yourself like that, especially if you're quite introspective, which you are as well. Oh, in fact, there we go. That's going to be the next poem I read. The poem about you. This is from an anthology of poetry nights of the Society Club, which used to meet every Friday in Soho and do a poetry night. And I went there very, very often. And every time I went, I read this poem, and they liked it and put it in the book. So here we go. Ode for a Friend. My friend, when you place your fingers upon the dark neck of a guitar and begin your song, your voice is like a summer wind across the lawns and statues of my anguished silence. Oh, how the dry fountain of my life is layered with the fallen lyrics from your soul's branches. How the desperate and unspoken cry of my blood before her eyes resounds in your singing. When you stand with your last cigarette, thin in a long coat in the stately night, your wounded leather case held with only a safety pin like our mad lives, I cannot help but see in your hair a crown of silver leaves. Who has caught the melody of autumn in the butterfly net of song like you, my friend? As a creaking piano lid softly closed, may this heart be stilled at your song's end. I think that sums things up.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Tradition of the sunset. Sometimes down Commercial Road I go mad for the late low sun that floods the street from west to east like a river of brass trumpets. The window displays of the wholesalers of Asian clothing, and the chicken shops, the bookmakers, the Castle pub on the corner, all are lit up beneath their peeling white facades, and the students wait at bus stops, and everyone wants to find the hidden door, the secret key, the misplaced shoe, the faded letter, the way into the warmth of their own lives. Aerials and advertisements, the flyers dumped beside litter bins and post boxes, and 100 dreams slung down the same every day. Stepney blasted by the glorious sun, and I feel tired but happy after work, so cross the street, get into the George Tavern, order a beer, lean on the bar and count my change, and the feeling that I am young and old at the same time, and who knows who you are but the breeze and the slow falling gorgeous sun, the friends who I haven't seen for months, the lovers for years, the cities never, the Vatican once a decade ago. It's all better in the last of the light, before the eventual collapse into the dusk, when the fifth beer is not as sweet and I'm not listening to anyone. The Valentine's flowers need throwing out, and the hands that were cracking in the winter are going bad again, and the anxieties about my wife, my work, my money, my soul weigh on me like the late bronze light. But now let me drink in peace and follow the late red sun's ritual fall, because I am still a man who loves the things my father saw.
It's very pertinent.
Pertinent. We were in the George Tavern having a drink. So I thought I would read some poetry about London. Okay. Well, let's talk for a bit first. Let's relax.
Okay.
It's October and everything is beautiful because Commercial Road goes from east, like west to east, almost perfectly. Beautiful light that floods it. It's a good time to be alive. My father is originally from London. He met my mother on holiday, moved up to where she was from, which is in a little town in Shropshire, in South Shropshire called Bridgnorth, and I grew up there. Then I formed a band there. I went to university at Nottingham, and basically my band members followed me. That's also when I started writing. I was always interested in writing lyrics, but I needed to be a bit more expansive, and that's when I got into writing poetry. I just wanted to write stuff that wasn't limited by the music. Then I moved for a year up near Liverpool in Ellesmere Port, and I worked there for a year, which is strange, but yeah, that really was the kind of the end of the band, which was a shame.
What were you called?
We were originally called the Starlets, and then it kind of, which I mean, there were loads of bands called the Starlets. Then we became the Cardinals. There's lots of bands called the Cardinals, and we were originally like a kind of English version of a kind of alternative, American alternative band, obviously with limited playing abilities.
Dressed in black as I'm a witch. Dressed in black as I'm a bitch. Dressed in black as I'm a witch. Dressed in black as I'm a bitch. I'm a witch. Scary. We have one more song. It's only one more song.
I moved back to Bridgnorth, and I was working in Wolverhampton at a psychiatric hospital. The mental hospital. The radio is playing pop songs as the patients in the dining room go about their day. Clay models dry in the corner, and the box of paints and crayons lies abandoned on a table. Everyone holds a cigarette or a cup of tea. A lady in blue pyjamas smokes rapidly. Another sits on the couch with a distant look and asks constantly for a light. An old man is caught shoving paper napkins through the slightly opened window until the hospital gardens are covered in fluttering white from the breeze, and for a moment it looks like the first fall of snow. From the end of the corridor, the girl in the dressing gown, who had yesterday been sketching her guardian angel, receives her medication and appears to have an aura from the winter sunlight shining magnificently through the glass. Then the old man who made it snow, and 2 days ago made paper flower bouquets for another patient's visitor, grasps the hand of the lady asking for the light and pulls her up from the couch, and they begin to dance. It was a great time, the psychiatric hospital. I went to work there because I thought I was going insane. My cousin worked in a psychiatric hospital and basically said, come and work with me and you can see what's going on. And then I realised I wasn't insane. There are often lots of people there who acted like they tried to act as though they were mentally ill to stay in the mental hospital. And it was very, very easy to tell the people who were genuine and the people who weren't. So you learnt a lot of things about, how you would act if you wanted to go in a place and how not to act.
And these are important things to know.
They are important things to know. It was very sad as well because you did get a lot of people who were homeless or things like that trying to stay there, but they didn't have the room for them, and they obviously weren't actually. But then that was sad because that meant that then they would do extreme things to try and prove they were, and so it was just a kind of vicious circle.
Right.
But then a variety of different things happened, and I thought, no, I nearly need to go away from all of this, come down to London. I was quite pleased that I came to London really as a kind of fully formed literary, I'd done enough, because I think London is one of these places I talked about that kind of overwhelms you and
eats you up.
It does, it becomes more about survival. But then eventually you settle in. I was able to basically started doing a lot more writing again. There's always been writing, and I think that's the key thing. The key thing is just to keep on at it, keep doing it. Here's a poem. This is called Whitechapel Shatters Me. Restless beneath the Leviathan shadows of the Royal London Hospital, the dense streets and the last of the sunlight, I know this maze without strings tied to doors, without shields, bronze thighs or great black sails. The brick buildings are burning in the low dusk. I cross pavements below a red sky. Everyone has charted starlit destinations over curled and stained maps. Cigarettes are thrown as the taxi arrives. With the gorgeous cracked white facades of wholesalers and bookmakers, the fading pink and grey blanket of light from the river, Whitechapel shatters me with poverty and sweetness, and I stride once more into the dark like Theseus. We can keep going. We can keep going. If you take poetry now, it used to be generally people would be doing very strict meters and rhymes and stuff like that, and I do like stuff like that. But generally most people now, they do free verse. It's just free verse. You know, really, often people say, what's the difference between poetry and prose? It's just that the lines don't go to the end of the page. It should in some way kind of sing. It should be like they say that, for example, the natural way someone speaks if they're in love is lyrical. It's just that's the way your mind is. But at the same time, I think you want to mix between that lyricism and really drilling down into whatever it is you want to talk about. You kind of try and get to the heart of something, which really I think you can only do by a series of images. It's like you have a certain glimpse of something, and then what you need to do, I think, is you really need to harden that. It's like tensing your imagination until you really get to the crux of it. What are you thinking of?
And create the diamond.
Yeah. Sharpen things. That's a good way of putting it. Mm-hmm. You know, sharpen up your imagination. I tend to be more creative though in like February, March, that time, and October, around that time.
It's when the seasons are in full.
Yeah, it's something to do with that, definitely believe it. I always think the summer's going to be the time when we do a lot, and then I don't.
Birth and death.
Exactly, the big things, totally.
I think a fear of death is more like a fear of having not lived a productive life.
I see that, yeah, there's something in it there, yeah. Because you're not going to get another chance. Ultimately, you're going to end up in heaven or hell. I do believe that. I believe there's definitely heaven.
Where am I going to end up?
It's not for me to judge. One thing we were talking about last time was death. So, let's read another poem about death. This is called My Death Falls on Me in the Still Afternoon. It is the scent of lavender and lost Sundays in my grandmother's spare bedroom. It is the weathered statue of the Virgin Mary at the foot of her garden, under clouds like black coffins. It is the nerves and the soul and the scratching of the hands. It is the taste of cruelty on the October winds. It rattles the teacups and turns the milk sour. I am a man breathing in an overcast day, but not yet dead, but thinking of the moment. I still have time to walk through the wild yellow grasses of small town cemeteries. I have time to lock the door against the storm, but it is the catching my face in the mirror at the flash of the lightning and the thunder cracks that curl my stomach. It is the tape recordings and the letters kept in boxes beneath the bed. It is the deepening darkness around these fingers.
When did you start to become fascinated with death?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm fascinated with it, really. Actually, I don't know. I was walking along the street yesterday. I went for a walk yesterday afternoon, and I was just thinking about death the whole time. Not in a morbid way, and it's not about how am I going to die or stuff. It's just the idea that you're here and then you're not here. It's a strange idea. I don't know how it can not weigh on you, really. You know, it weighs on me. My writing is about
the fact that death is coming. It's not about this is what happened when I will die, this is what happens after. I do have beliefs about things like that. It's not about that. People at my work say I'm the happiest man alive. And I think that's part of it as well, you see, because you're addressing all of this. You know, you're not. It's not like people say they hide everything away and then become neurotic. It stops your neurosis. If you realise you're mad, you know, and then just go with it and try and be like a mad person who can function in society, in reality. You know, I can keep a job. I can do things and get on with people. You just need to know what it is to keep your madness under control.
The city. The sunset flares and 10,000 rooftops turn yellow. Evil like an escaped tiger stalking the detritus of the alleyways. Newspapers, orange peel, wrappers and dry leaves edged up against the curbs and drains. A bicycle crushed beneath the bus at a junction. The rider's skull and chest cracked like creme brulee. Blood all over the number plate. Accidents and murders, knives and wheels, bathrooms full of death and vomit. The glass office towers, melting cars with reflected sunlight. The vast estates and the wastelands, the wild grasses where she was felt up by that bastard. Industrial zones deserted except for the crows that squawk amid these playgrounds of dead machinery. I want to leave this city.
I have immense hatred of utilitarianism, of stuff just for, you know, its functionality. There has to be beauty in things. You know, there has to be something that lifts the spirit. And also, you know, the idea of things being done by committees or things being organised to go in a certain way. That's not how the great cities are created. It's like the American cities are created like line across that, you know, block. You're not going to find that in Paris and Rome. And they're organic. It's an organic growth, just over time and the centuries and the historical factors. You know, you want that in art as well.
I think that some art is objectively better than others. And I think that one of the problems with modern art, especially I would say like modern art tradition, like painting or sculpture and stuff like that, is it's trying to get rid of the objective standard of art and basically trying to say that anything is art, and that all often means glorifying things basically that aren't beautiful. You know, here's the artist's vomit in a tin. Who's it, like Duchamp and people like that? Duchamp. Once you got to him, you've done everything. It's actually already been done. Mm-hmm. So once you got there, all right, there we go. It should have just readjusted back to like a good standard of art, but instead it's just gone the other way.
I quite like, is it the Stuckists? I quite like their manifesto about art or something. They say that if it needs to be in an art gallery to call it art, it's not art. I totally agree with that. It's easy to be an artist, but it's maybe not that easy to actually do anything artistic, is it? That's the thing. Anyone can be an artist. Basically, it doesn't really bother me. I'm not really. I like doing my thing. I like writing my poems and stuff like that. If someone wants to, you know, put a milk crate, sellotape it to the wall, and get 50 grand for it, well, they're not getting my money, you know. But it doesn't bother me really. It bothers me a bit.
What's any kind of art really? It's a reflection of the world, whether the external world or the interior world or both. That's what it is. And the world is beautiful, so why can't art be beautiful? Beauty is meaningful because it points to something higher than itself, which is goodness. Beauty is a sign of goodness, and beauty is objective. It's not you imputing beauty on the thing. You're seeing beauty and recognising, that's beautiful. You see this candle. It's not you saying, that is beautiful, I'm making that beautiful. It's beautiful, and you're saying, yes, that's beautiful. True beauty exists whether we even recognise it or not. True beauty. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. It's not. We've got to put more emphasis on this. I've been arguing it the whole evening, on whatever it is, on a world outside of our own mind. Our mind should see the world and say, yes, that is the world, okay. But what we do now is we think that we can mould the world according to our own mind. So it's a very modern way of thinking, and I think it's wrong, basically. And I think that explains why there's so much problems in thought, in ideas, in philosophy, in politics, and in art. Because people, they're looking at things the wrong way. We need to read more poetry. This is better than the nonsense. Cut out the conversations and have poetry.
I'm done with my bottle.
Well, we'll see if there's anything else you can drink. Can you drink port or anything like that?
Sure.
We'll see. Twilight Violins. Twilight violins drift upon the winds like swans, as the late sun moves and grey city roofs turn bronze. The soft evening breeze brings dark melodies like cries, as the weak sun glow falls haunting and slow, then dies. The worn sighing strings whisper of lost things that were, as the last light fades through the sad arcades like her.
Café Madness. Someone was playing the accordion on the train in my trip from Camden to Highbury, and I sit in a cafe run by a Romanian on a black and white striped sofa, like a waiting room for hell. 10:30 in the morning, and I've been out for a while, hitting the familiar and hidden London streets, and the characters you cross. The side biscuit with the coffee is stale. There's an Italian cafe with a green awning opposite, but it's too late now. A father and daughter have ordered breakfast. She walked from her wheelchair and is trying to touch the jar of flowers. It's making her cry out with one of those wails that scrapes your soul, makes you think of orphanages in war zones, the cold white steel bars of the cops. But now, strangely uplifting Eastern European music is playing, and I look up slowly from my work, like in the final shot of a film, when the protagonist realizes the full horror of the past, and the camera pans out of the cafe window, up over the grey bustling and gridlocked city, and the credits begin to roll.
I'm going to go once he wants me to go. Once he wants to switch.
We're in the dark heart of London. We're in the neighbourhood of Soho. It's much more commercialised now, but there's still enough interesting things going on. Interesting characters you meet. This is a particular area in London which holds some personal significance, especially in the first few years I came here. I was often around these streets: Greek Street, Dean Street, Frith Street, Bar Italia, Café Bohème, the French House, the Toucan Bar. Some places have closed down as well. Go to the bookshops, buy some books, drink some coffees. I don't think I've really written many poems about Soho. Not in the same way that I wrote quite a lot about when I was living in Whitechapel.
Why is that?
I think that might be because it's almost an area that you don't feel is your own, if you see what I mean.
Soho is a part of too many parts.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I also think that, yeah, this is more the place where you're sucked in, almost anonymous into the area, rather than you claiming the area as your own, I think.
Right.
I also think it's because it's been done so wonderfully by other people. I've written a lot about Soho that I haven't really felt the need. So before I actually moved to London, I came down quite often. Sometimes I came down to go to this nightclub, and then I had nowhere to stay. That was up in Westbourne Park, which is in West London. So I would get a night bus back into central London to Piccadilly Circus. So I've spent a few nights without a roof in the streets of London, So I've always got that to my name.
Wandering around till the sun comes up.
Exactly. I've done that, and I've served Christmas dinner in a psychiatric hospital. Christmas dinner on the psychiatric ward. I served the roast turkey and potatoes to the lady in the dressing gown with the darkened yellow fingernails and the purple paper crown. She buries her plate under the gravy, and I have to watch her with the knives. We battle with the bright red cracker like we battle with our lives. The room is filled with their awkward laughter and the stilted talk of strange old men. And I see all things are truly mad, like that night in Bethlehem. I don't like being a poet though. But if you take a title, something like poet or songwriter or artist, these are big formal titles.
Well, that's the thing about artistic labels, they carry so much weight.
They do. I mean, for example, imagine calling yourself a playwright. You know, people think of people like Oscar Wilde or Shakespeare. And you'd be like, what? I've written a play, I'm not a playwright. That's a heavy title to take.
Heavier than admin assistant.
Yeah. It's like the historical way and the idea of like the literary establishment and things like that, which is it's great. I think it's great. It's got that. I think it's wonderful. You've got like romantic poets like Keats and Shelley and Byron and all that. They write these massive long poems. It's amazing. But you couldn't sit down like with a little piece of paper and you write like 4 lines and they're rubbish, thinking, oh, I'm a poet. You could put up a shelf that wouldn't make you, you know, a builder. Put the sound thing down, please. If we take this set off, I think this wall needs to come down. My birthday next week. I'll be 39.
How do you feel about that?
Pretty happy. I think I'm going to reach my peak at about 44. Maybe 50. Long gone are the days when I thought they'd find me dying on the Spanish steps at 25.
Which is your favourite city?
Good question. Depends what you're after, really.
What are you after?
I don't know. I like to travel a bit more, but I'm also one of these people, you know, well, wherever you travel, you take yourself with you, don't you know? And,
we're forever condemned to drag ourselves around.
well, there you go. You know, there's inner space to travel as well, isn't there? Often I see myself, like, imagining I'm in some Aztec ruin in South America, so there's a huge like vista of like a jungle in front of you and birds going about. But I don't want to be someone who just lives in your dream world.
The images come to you in dreams often.
Yeah, but that's not they do. I dream constantly. Some also suffer from nightmares quite a bit, but I dream absolutely constantly. But I don't really do a lot of stuff based on my dreams. And I don't want, because, you know, like, dreams are boring when people talk about their dreams. It's boring. If you are someone who's very intuitive, it's unconscious knowledge. And so what's happening there is that all of these series of images you've got, somehow you get one and then others fix themselves to it and it seems to make sense. And so I think dreams are a way of almost like putting stuff in order, having a spring clean of your unconscious symbols, something like that. Yeah, exactly, yeah. You can have a dream and you think, is that the first time I had the dream? Or is it because in the dream I was thinking that I had the dream many times before? You know, there is part of me that thinks that we get too lost in our imagination. One of the issues now, you see, and I suppose it's exacerbated a lot in the modern world, especially with stuff like technology, is the idea that we can live so much in our brain. For example, we spend so much of our time dreaming and imagining and fantasizing and all of this, that it's hard for us to separate what's really reality and what's just, you know, going on in our mind. Spend some time outside. That's good for artists, I think. Go outside. Nature is good for an artist, which I'm sure you'd agree, because
For example, a lot of your songs very pastoral, very nature oriented. That's good. They elevate the soul. That's what we have to do. We need to, despite the animal in human nature, celebrate the angel in human nature, rather than despite the angel in human nature, celebrate the animal. That's what we need to do.
What do you think of critics?
I'd say if you take someone from my age group, your experience of critics would probably be something like music papers and things like that, music magazines, where there was a whole kind of style where the critic himself would almost be a kind of art form, and you'd read a review of something and you think, well, when are they going to mention the music? And so in one sense I just thought, this isn't about what I want to be, it's trying to do something, but I've not bought into it. And so I was initially very negative, I'd say, critics. Since that time, I appreciate those things a bit more, you see what I mean? Because these people, we're trying to do things at a level deeper than perhaps I appreciate. The critic is there with this power to say, that's not very good, but I'm amazing. It's somehow going to reflect, the glory of me is going to be reflected from the failure of this thing. So there's something I feel like that, but also I do like the fact that you have got people who really care, who are quite interested in this stuff, that they're prepared to do it. You know that if you're getting someone like that who's going to say, yeah, that's all right, and give you a thumbs up, it's actually worth something. I've got to the level where I've done enough stuff that I've done it to the standard and the style that I like, so it doesn't really matter. I like it. I've done it for me. So critics, let them do their business. I'll do my business. It's all good. It's all good.
Right, this is a Portuguese nata, also called a pastel de Belém, and it's made from the egg yolk in a monastery in Portugal, because they'd used the whites of the eggs for the communion posts. So that's where this comes from. It's a bit of Portugal in the heart of Soho.
How influenced by pop culture is your poetry?
I'm not sure. I'd be tempted to say not a lot, but one thing that I possibly say is that my writing tends to be quite short. Say, for example, a poem like that, it's hardly set up to be, look at this, magnificent piece of beauty. It's not looking like a sculpture or something. That didn't take very long to write that, compared to Michelangelo's statue of David. That's art. In one of the American art museums, they bought a rock. It's just outside the rock. So in the old days, Michelangelo would have a rock, sculpt the image of the perfect man out of it. One mistake and it's destroyed. Now you just have a rock. So it's not quite the rock. There's a bit more there. There's a bit of sculpture there, but it's nowhere on. It's not trying to do anything like that.
Maybe the rock from which Michelangelo's David was sculpted is more beautiful because it's more objective. It's natural.
Absolutely. Firstly, he's sculpting something of nature as well, which is a human being, a human figure. And the human figure he sculpts is better than the rock from which it's made.
Better, which means better.
The human form is objectively more beautiful than a rock.
The rock from which
the thing is, you know this. You do know this. It's just that people have been taught to question these ideas. But we just know that. You intuitively know it's more beautiful. Never that's the case. You imagine all the famous artists who are met other artists and have great conversations that no one knows about, that has never been recorded. I often think about that, imagine Paris 100 years ago. All these artists knew each other, they had great nights out with each other, chatted to each other, but no one knows anything about them.
I'm currently reading A Movable Feast by Hemingway. It's about exactly that.
Very good film. He's in the square in San Michel or whatever he's talking about, he's sat outside. I know exactly the cafe, eating some fish or something, he's loving it with white wine, he's loving life. goes to the horse racing all the time, living the dream. I feel blessed myself that I've met loads of people who are very artistically creative, who I really like the stuff they've done. Firstly, that's amazing in itself. Also, you know, no one's going to write it down, are they? If I don't write it down and they don't write it down, it's lost. So we should just film everything. Film everything.
What are they queued for, Tom?
Sorry?
What are they queued for?
Skateboards.
Where are we going?
The Lamb and Flag, the best pub in London. Shout out to my dad and to Terry.
No bo to sieciówka jak mak, nie?
This way down a little passageway down here.
Here we are.
Poet Street and Floor Street. It's near the Poetry Society Cafe. We'll go in there, read a poem, set the world on fire. Yeah.
These streets of fever, sickness in the dark afternoon of thunderstorms, and I cross the checkered bathroom floor. Everything I once was lost to the rain, banging these windows. I drift again over pink nighties and black wardrobes, your slanted attic roof, all the things I let fall through my life, like ash, like leaves. You walk these streets of fever, while the burning car we once saw from your skylight has long since been crushed in a scrapyard, and I am tougher now than ever. But the embers still flicker for those October afternoons, for those times that mean so much to me as the years pass, and the idea of my death does not seem as strange as it did as a child, when even a Sunday was endless. We are aware that that our human nature, shall we say, is not what it should be. I can understand why people do bad things. Of course I can. It's in us. Of course it is. We're flawed human beings. We have instincts and all this, but that's not all. That's not all we are. We're more than that. We've got a bit to us, the human race. I love the human race. Just be a good person. Be a good person. And if you want to do some artistic stuff, do it. Look at the world, look at the 20th century, how much disaster there's been, how much suffering and death and all of this, wars. You might say, well, in terms of all that, my whatever artistic thing I do is negligible or something, but it's still important. I'd say it's still important, it's your life. Mm-hmm. Why not use that to lift up humanity rather than continue to drag them down? That's where I've got to now, I think.
Yeah.
I think because that's it. Just don't contribute to the oppression and ugliness of humanity. Contribute to the beauty.